Okay. And if not,
Continue. Okay, I'm going to share on Facebook.
hello world.
I know, right? Hi, everybody.
Welcome
Hello,
to our
everybody. Okay, sorry. Did y'all catch that at all? It was really bad. Did you catch it, Doug?
Yes.
All right. I think we're live, guys. My computer always seems to be lagging, but I think we're here. Hello, hello. It's 4th of July, guys. And we're still here. That's how much we love y'all. That's how much we love you guys.
ring.
Yeah, I know. Welcome to Ask a PT. I am Lindy Phyllis. I am the founder of Family Friends in Duchenne. This is wonderful Doug Levine.
Hello.
Doug is the owner of Growing Places located in Austin, Texas. He's been a PT since 1997, focusing primarily on pediatrics and Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Since 2006, he's been rocking and rolling with Growing Places, and he's also working with Cure Duchenne. He's a Cure Duchenne certified therapist, and he works, let's see, where do you work? School, daycare settings, speech therapies in the home, and all over the place. Anywhere else that I missed, Doug? Where else do you work?
MDA camp.
Nice.
Playgrounds,
Nice.
pretty much anywhere where I can do therapy.
Even virtually? I'm sure
Even
you've done
virtually.
that too.
We've done some virtually, yes.
Dude, that's amazing. Anyway, Doug's kind of growing on me, so I told him I'd let him come and chat with us again. Today we have one of my friends, Angela. Angela, how the heck do you say your last name?
Renzarski.
Renzarski. Oh, that's not too bad.
If you cut it into 3 sections, it's easier.
Zarski. Oh, that's not bad at all. Okay. Well, Angela had a question for Doug, and if I play my cards right, y'all might even get a screen share today. So, Angela, take it away, girl.
I had taken well, first of all, my son is 14. He's been non-ambulatory for about 1.5 years. He does aqua physical therapy twice a week. And then one day, a couple weeks ago, the PT said, come to our office, try this thing called a K stander, which is kind of like a harness for your bottom half, and it's like a walker for an adult. It's this great big tall thing. And so he tried it. And as I was seeing him in that little harness, I remembered when he was a little baby and that Johnny jump up in the doorway. And I wasn't thinking he'd be like jumping, but I thought that idea of being suspended and perhaps I found this do-it-yourself thing online. If you look at the screen share, and I wasn't going to really do that. It was just like an idea in my head. If he had something to maybe, so he could lengthen, like stretch out his legs, maybe weight bear the tiniest bit, would that help him? Because, he sits down all day long. Mm-hmm. And the stretching and everything. And I wondered, would it be nice for him to be able to stand, and could some kind of contraption like this be feasible? And I should have sent you, Lindy, the other picture I found. It's a like legit medical company that makes these things where you can hang it up and then the patient can kind of be suspended, and maybe you can adjust how much weight bearing they do. It might be none. It might be 5% of their weight, or it might be a whole lot more. So that was my question, if this was something that would be helpful to our boys to be able to stand and try that.
It depends. No, I'm just, Lindy always makes fun of me because that's typically the answer for so many things with Duchenne. Because so just to make sure I understand, because I think I've seen this before, you're talking about, it's kind of a like it's like a silver metal thing, and it's taller than him, and you're kind of suspended.
Yeah, that's the K stander. So it's kind of, you hold on to it and you walk.
Right. But you're so you're asking about, would it be beneficial? Would it be helpful?
If I had one of these things suspended from my ceiling, or some other type of way where to put him in it for a few minutes a day, and he'd be stretching his hip flexors because he wouldn't be in the seated position.
Yeah.
And put weight on his legs because he walks in the pool. And then when he did the K-stander, his therapist said he was only putting about 10% of his weight on his legs because the rest was being held by the harness he was sitting in. So I
Right.
didn't know if something like that on the daily would be something.
Probably, I think there would be a little bit of benefit to it, but probably not a ton of benefit. And this is why. The reason that the kids with Duchenne stop walking is not typically due to tightness, but it's primarily due to weakness. So if he's suspended, and again, do I have it right? So he's suspended, but there's nothing holding his knees, like there's nothing blocking his knees and keeping his knees straight, correct?
No, I guess, no.
Yeah.
The thing I
So
know.
yeah, so what's typically going to happen, because I've used this for another a girl with a different diagnosis that I work with, and we tried it with her, and she also she had a type of muscular dystrophy, but it primarily had weakness. And the problem was that as we started to kind of adjust the stander and allow for more weight bearing, her muscles were not, I mean, she just started crouching down more and more. Her muscles weren't able to support her. So we weren't able to really ever get a beneficial amount of weight bearing through the legs because there was so much weakness. And I think the same situation would be there with your son. Now, like in a stander, so this is kind of like a suspended walker that you're talking about.
Yeah.
In a stander that you have, whether it's like an easy stand or a different type of stander, they have knee blocks in there. So so as you're coming up, it keeps you from crouching, right? You have these parts to the stander, from the hips, from the knees to the feet, that keep everything in place. So as you come up, you're getting that weight bearing. Because of the weakness, you're still getting that weight bearing. But with this, where you're just suspended, if there's too much weakness, he's just not going to get enough weight bearing. It's going to end up being almost like a hammock.
Yeah.
You know, and it's hard. I mean, it's not, at least with the girl that I used it with, it wasn't extremely comfortable. If it was supporting maybe 50% of her weight or 40% of her weight and she was doing the rest, I think it would have been okay. But for her too, it was supporting 80 and 90% of her weight, and the harness was kind of riding up on her and it was kind of compressing, and we tried it out for a couple of weeks, and it just ended up being really difficult.
That's
So
funny. I forgot about that because when he did the K-stander, it was like riding up into his ribs and it got very uncomfortable. So she raised it up a little. And when I was watching him, is like his little legs were dangling and barely
yeah,
reached the floor. So
right, because there's so much weakness, you're just not getting enough. I mean, if he were able to do 50% of the work, and the piece of equipment was doing 50% of the work, then that's a different situation. You know, then he's able to put more weight through there and he's doing more of it. But otherwise, we just can't get enough weight bearing from the person, you know, from your son. We just can't get enough weight bearing that it's beneficial.
right. That makes total sense.
Yeah. So
You got,
like, yeah, like Lindy is posting some things here, you know, like the K dynamic stander, or the small vertical stander. You have these parts in place. You can see that block the knees, and so you're able to get into an upright position. This child on, well, any of these, on the left or the two pictures on the right, it doesn't matter how much strength they have, the stander is doing the work. So they're still getting weight bearing. They're still able to get weight bearing through the thighs, through the feet, and those blocks that are in place are keeping them from collapsing.
Right. That's not what he tried, but yes, I know what you're
Right.
talking. I sent her a picture of what he
Yeah.
used.
So I think something like this, I mean, these here are made for a little bit, you know, smaller guys, but I think a stander where you have those blocks in place would be more beneficial for your son than something like that that K supported walker.
So I've got a question.
Yeah.
I've got chairs that are standers. So why, at what point, I know there's an insurance game to play. That's always a fun one. At what point could Angela try to advocate or get a standard component to the power chair for her son?
I would say yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of benefit. I typically, a power chair is something that's a pretty standard thing that we get for kids with Duchenne. And unless there's an issue with like severe contractures of the feet or the knees or something like that, I pretty much always go to bat for a standing power chair. And I think it's so important. I'll write a letter or 6 or 12 or whatever we need to do, because it's so beneficial. Because the standing part of it, once they lose the ability to walk, they're losing all of those benefits of being upright, from weight bearing through, through those long bones of the legs. And as you're on long-term steroids, the bone density goes down. So we're getting weight bearing, digestion, blood pressure regulation, and not to mention just the psychological aspect of it, being upright and being on eye level with peers. Those types of things are so important. So Angela, I would say that if you don't already have, do you have a power chair for your son?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, but you don't have a stander for it. Is that correct?
No, that's correct.
Okay. So I'm not sure that they can be done aftermarket. But so if there's, if your son is if that's coming up where he's going to get a new power chair anytime soon, I really would look into that, because it's also so much easier to implement a standing program in the power wheelchair with a stander, because you don't have to have another piece of equipment. You don't have to transfer in and out. So I think it's really a great thing.
Awesome.
Angela, I'm going to hog some of your time for me, if I might. So Doug, for those families out there who are pre-power chair, our son is 11, and we're kind of seeing it on the horizon. Like even from the get-go, would you say having a stander in there, like even from the very beginning?
Yes, because a lot of times we don't know the progression of the Duchenne, and for some kids it's pretty quick, some kids it's slow. And when we get a power chair, in most states, it does vary a little bit throughout the country, but in most states, the insurance companies want you to have that for 5 years. So we really need to think about, okay, what does my child need now? But what do they also need 3 years or 4 years from now? So it's a more difficult game with the insurance company when it's early on, because if they're still able to stand or they can get in a stander, the insurance company may push back. But I've gotten them approved before, and I think I typically will go for it, in the first go around. And just to give a little bit of a plug, Cure Duchenne has partnered with Quantum. Quantum is a wheelchair manufacturer that Quantum has done. They've generously offered standing component to the power chair. So they make a power chair with a standing frame. So if you have attempted to get a power chair with a stander integrated into it, and your insurance company has denied it, and you've exhausted that resource, if it's a Quantum chair that you're getting, Quantum will throw that in for free. So you have to apply. It's through there's a place on Cure Duchenne's website with this Quantum standing program. Just the big issues are that you have to have exhausted insurance. You have to get a denial, and it has to be a Quantum chair, and it has to be a new chair. So they won't go back to an old chair and add that on.
But it can be added.
I'm sorry?
But it has the capability of being added. He has
Some
a,
chairs, not all power chairs, it can be added, but
Okay.
some chairs it can and some chairs it can't.
interesting.
Yeah, but this is a real, I think the standing component is so important. It's generally, if you add it, whether it's to a new chair or it's to an existing chair, it's typically around $4,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. So to have quantum, that is a lot of times something that's hard to get funded. So the fact that Quantum has offered this, I think is fantastic and very generous on their part.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
And we'll drop that link in the Facebook chat so people can go straight to it. Before we leave this topic, Doug, if anybody has a PT who is struggling with insurance, might they be able to reach out to you or somebody else to help them with that language? I know a lot of it's a language game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like 100% of it's a language game. So there's a couple of options. Absolutely, Linda, you can put my email and my Facebook profile, and anybody, therapists or parents can reach out to me. But also through Cure Duchenne, we did a webinar. I think about 3 or 4 months ago, and all of our webinars that we do, they're for the therapists, they're for medical professionals. They're all archived on the Cure Duchenne website, so you can go and watch them. And we did one about 3 months ago on medical justification, on this exact thing, and verbiage to use, things to avoid, the appeal process, and obviously those things are a little bit different state to state, but there are some generalities, and so the information and the resources that are on there are fantastic.
All right, excellent. And I was just we were just able to access the picture, so I'm going to do a quick little screen share here, and that way we can all get on the same page. Y'all see that right there?
Yeah.
Yep,
So
there it is.
typically that's that. I've never used it with somebody with Duchenne, but I would imagine that's what would typically happen, is that they're going to be up on their toes, because usually they're when they were walking, they're up on their toes. And it's just going to be as we lessen the help from the K walker, just those quadricep muscles, hamstrings, and glutes are not strong enough to support. And so more than likely, they'll just kind of sink down into it.
After we did this, I thought this was like, what was the point? We haven't tried it again, because I didn't really feel like, I felt like he does better in the pool anyway, because this kind of a whole difficult big thing.
Yeah, in my opinion, and again, I've worked, I work almost exclusively with Duchenne, so I have a lot of experience working with these kids. I think this is a beautiful piece of equipment for some diagnoses and for some kids. I think it's fantastic. I don't think that Duchenne is something where it would be helpful.
All right, very good. Well, I'm gonna see if we can squeeze in Doug. I'm gonna give you the opportunity to give your "it depends" answer, and then we might have Angela come back. Okay. For the rest. And I just want to bring up this topic because we are heading into school very, very soon. And with Duchenne, you got to start planning for school as soon as the previous school year ends. So Angela, would you like to toss one more question at Doug just quickly, and we'll see what he says?
About what I said earlier. Yeah. So he has a perfect lift that's always in his bag on his chair. He's always with him. He's never used it, but he could. So if we were somewhere and there was a fire, an emergency, they shut down the elevators, what's our best option to get out an emergency situation?
Down the stairs, do you mean?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, because like in a school, there's always stairs. Right. I don't know if elevators are automatically shut off or somebody does that, and if he could still use it. But what would typically be your recommendation, like at school, if something happened upstairs? And
Yeah, so let's throw out just kind of three quick scenarios. One, you mentioned the perfect lift, which I love. If you guys are not familiar with that, it was designed by a mom who has a child with Duchenne, and it's basically like a kind of a meshy, really strong material, like nylon material, and it has handles all through it, and it's kind of rectangular in shape. And Lindy, I don't, what would you say? It's maybe 3 feet by 5 feet, like almost like a rectangle, kind of.
Yeah, I'll pull up a picture of it real quick.
Okay. And it's kind of contoured to the person, but there's handles all throughout. So it's really for a two-person transfer. And it just makes it easier to move somebody from one place to another. And it goes under them like a sling, like from a lift. So I think honestly, Angela, in an emergency situation, my feeling is you do whatever you need to do to be safe. So if you're on the same floor, a perfect lift is a great way to get them out. I work in the schools as well. I'm a school therapist a couple of days a week. So I always make sure that, like, if the child's in a power chair, just as a backup, if the person's manual chair is not at school, we'll make sure that there's a backup manual chair somewhere close by, whether it's in the nurse's office, in the corner, outside the classroom, something like that. We just make sure that there's a manual chair, and it doesn't have to be a perfect one. We're just trying to get them out in an emergency. And the last thing that I'll typically do, and this is more for, this usually happens like in high school, because they're 2 stories, or even middle schools. You can't rely on the elevator that's going to be functional in the case of a fire. So they actually make like an emergency sled chair. And I've had the school, like if we have a student that would need that, the school can purchase it. They kind of have to purchase it if that's what's needed in an emergency. It's not very expensive. I'll train the staff on how to do it. So if we have one at that school, I'll typically just one day, either in the beginning of school, or sometimes we'll do an in-service. Takes about 5 minutes. It's very simple to learn how to do, but it's a basic setup. It's just like a chair, and it has these little wheels, and you're able to fairly smoothly and fairly easily and safely go down the stairs. So either of those 3 things are what I would recommend. Again, there's not always a perfect, like a manual chair. It might not fit the child perfectly, but the idea is there's a fire. We need to get this child out as quickly as possible.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. I hope y'all get to see a lot of fireworks tonight. Maybe.
I hope so.
We're gonna go get we're done.
Our goal, I've got a 4-year-old, so our goal is to sleep through the fireworks. Hopefully it'll work.
There you go.
But guys, we are here every Monday. I'm hoping that y'all are starting to see how important it is to have a knowledgeable PT for your child with Duchenne. If you don't have somebody who is knowledgeable or willing to learn, please, I'll pop a link in there to all kinds of, oh gosh, what am I trying to say? To the Cure Duchenne, where they've got information where you can find other professionals who are already trained. Cure Duchenne has a training program for your PT. And if you're at your wit's end, you're also welcome to contact us, and you can come on and pick Doug's brain.
And they also, on the Cure Duchenne website, there is an online course that the therapist can take. I think it's only like 3.5 hours. And it's a great introduction to Duchenne, kind of a what to do, what not to do kind of thing, that hopefully your therapist would be willing to sit down and watch.
And you know what, guys, I even encourage parents to watch it. I've watched it myself. They had a fantastic sale. I think it was last September for Duchenne Awareness Day. But I encourage parents to watch it. Just, you got to stay one step ahead of your professionals. It's just what you got to do with Duchenne. Yeah. Let's see, Angela, one more thing.
Oh, no, I'm glad you said that because our therapist took it. We sent her the link. I wanted to gift it to her and she said, oh no, we're going to get it. And everyone in her office took it. And so she's been urging me to watch it myself. She goes, I'll give you my link. And she never has, but I'm just going to get on there myself because she was very excited about it and said that I needed to watch it for sure. So I just haven't yet, but yeah, she can't say enough good things about it.
I agree
Good.
completely. I did in person right after my son was diagnosed. And then, like I said, last year I did it online too, and they're both fantastic. So go do it, guys. I've got another half of the day off. All right. We'll see y'all next week. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Lindy.
Bye.